Hi, I'm Lindsey, and I'm talking with MedTech industry leaders on how they change lives for a better world.
The inventions and technologies are fascinating, and so are the people who work with them.
There was a period of time where I realized fundamentally my job was to go hang out with really smart people that are saving lives and then do work that would help them save more lives.
I got into the business to save lives, and it is incredibly motivating to work with people who are in that same business, saving or improving lives.
What better industry than where I get to wake up every day and just save people's lives?
These are extraordinary people doing extraordinary work, and this is The Leading Difference. Hello, and welcome back to the Leading Difference podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey, and I am so excited to introduce you to my guest today, Jennifer L. Horspool. Jennifer is a communication and public relations expert, a global brand strategist, international speaker, and founder of Engagement PR and Marketing. As a brand growth and turnaround specialist, Jennifer has been employing her skills in PR, media, marketing, and messaging for more than 3 decades to grow companies from vision to multi-million dollars and turn best-kept secret brands into the go-to experts of their industries. Jennifer works with companies of all sizes, from startups to Fortune 100. She's been working with MedTech, biotech, and pharmaceutical companies for more than 15 years and has helped to bring some pretty cool products to market. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here, Jennifer. I'm so excited to speak with you today.
Thank you, Lindsey. I'm so honored to be here. I'm excited.
Wonderful. Well, would you mind starting off by telling us just a little bit about yourself and your background and maybe what led you to MedTech?
Sure thing, actually. So I've been running engagement PR and marketing since 2015. I've actually been in the field of public relations marketing since the 90s, right? I'm 24 years old. I don't know how that math works. I don't really have to do numbers. I do words. Healthcare has been my vertical deep for all those 30 years, right? I've worked with some other people outside of healthcare, but for the most part, healthcare. I started off doing a lot in patient services and really like direct to consumer about health and wellness and stuff like that. And then got into drug approvals, but from a PR perspective, right? So bringing drugs to life. And then that led me into devices, med tech. And then as AI has exploded, it's just been really fascinating in the med tech world. And I've gotten to work with med tech that does need FDA approval and med tech that does not need FDA approval. So there's all different kinds of stuff. And one of the most fascinating things that I've gotten to do is work with a couple of different contract research organizations. And so those are the companies that hold the hands of the inventors so that they can get their products through the FDA and to market in the United States. It's a fascinating journey. There's all kinds of different avenues to go down, and it's just been really spectacular of the things that I've gotten to learn in the inventors and getting inside the inventors' minds.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your background and whatnot. And so, okay, so I'm curious, when you first, maybe as a kid, like would 7-year-old Jennifer have said, this is what I want to do with my life? Or did 7-year-old Jennifer not know yet?
Well, 7-year-old Jennifer thought she was going to be a scientist. I was the girl that had all I made my own soaps. I made my own potions and lotions. I did not think of myself as a witch. I thought of myself as a science.
Right.
And so I was always inventing this and inventing that and constantly spilling things on my poor mom's brand new floor. And not my not quickly. Well, oh, I know I've always enjoyed science and I've just found it to be fascinating. And then I got lost along the way. I forgot about science. Quite honestly, I was taking it, but those were hard and communication just came so easily to me. And then it became more about storytelling. And so I love to tell stories. And one thing after another, I got into branding and brand building. And this is in the 90s is when that terminology kind of first started maturing outside of your brand mark, which is your logo. Before the early 90s, early to mid 90s, we talked everything about a brand was really just your brand mark was your logo. We thought that was a brand. And then we came down to no, it's actually the brand is the emotional component of who you are and who you are as a company and all the different things. And so I got to get into all of that and I got all into the words and the storytelling and the feelings and emotions of it. And now I got to represent scientists. And so it's really been a really good match because I think I'm a natural communicator.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think it's so helpful sometimes to bridge the gap because you have that background and that interest in science. And sometimes, perhaps not all scientists can communicate as well as they to maybe those of us who don't have that background and do need to understand what it is you're bringing to market so that we can purchase it.
Right,
So,
right, right. And it's uncomplicating the complications that they find simple, right? So it's
mm,
how do you take that scientific language and turn it into common language that everyone can get behind? And so I've always said, like, really smart people can simplify everything.
yeah, I
That's
love
how
that.
you know.
Yeah, there's a saying that something along the lines of simple isn't easy, but simple is worth it. And I think that's
I love it.
a really good thing to
Yeah.
remind yourself of is when you can simplify processes or communication or whatnot, it is worth it in the long run, even though, like that famous, was it Mark Twain who said something like, I didn't have time to write a short letter.
Yeah, so I had to write a long one.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
exactly.
Because it's the truth. And that's funny because in marketing all the time, they're like, I need 11 words to fit right here. And people don't understand that it's much harder to write 11 words about something than it is to write 700.
Yeah.
700 is I get to explain it all. 11, I have to be impactful, and those words really matter. And so it's actually much more difficult to write 11 impactful words than it is to write 700.
Yes. Yes, it is. I love that. That's a good analogy too. So now, what are you currently doing and excited about? And what are you looking forward to as you continue to build the business and move forward?
Yeah. So because we do marketing, PR, branding, brand experience, love to work with brand new startups. Love to help them figure out that whole identity, get their websites going. Everything that's in the beginning, you would be surprised at how many emotions are tied into that first coming out brand. And people think it matters so much, and it does matter, right? But it's like sometimes get out what you know right now. Let's get something up. And then as your science matures, we can mature your brand. We can mature your website. First thing we want to do is get something out there where we can start getting presence, getting you seen, known, trusted, and found, right? Getting found is the most important thing, and if not the easiest, right? So
Mm,
so there's all these different strategies that you do to get found first by your name, by who you are, your company name, the founder's names, and also by what you do or what your promise of your technology is going to do. And so I really enjoy working with people at all stages. I've had the great fortune of working with startups that are unfunded, startups that are funded, and then all the way through to Fortune 14 companies, right? So the entire gamut, I know who and how to work with. And we work with all of them, but our sweet spot really is in they're just launching or have already launched and are just starting, getting ready to get known, really building that brand and pulling people to you, to your sites, to your social media, to the studies that you're doing, to all the different things so that we build that rise and then you're found more easily. Because at the end of the day, if you're the best kept secret, you could have the best science in the world, but then no one gets to use it. So we take you from the best kept secret to the best known experts in the industry.
Ooh, I love that. Nice.
Thank you.
And I think it's so true too, because I think sometimes working with engineers, for instance, who are beyond brilliant, and sometimes there can be a disconnect of, well, it's so great. Like the product is so great and it should just be known. And we're like, yes, you're right. It should be. But there actually has to be a process to go through because unfortunately, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah,
No.
that movie threw everybody for a loop when websites came about because all of a sudden everybody thought, oh, if I build it, they will come. And it's like, no, that's a movie. It's the
Yes.
dream. If you remember, it was the dream field.
Right.
So if you build it, then you have to market it so that they even know to come. And there's a lot of variety. Like it should be fun. And it
Yeah.
needs to be fun first and foremost, right? Like the excitement, there's an acronym that I do about media. How do you get in the media? Media, right? So your message is your magnet. And it's your message. Your message is your magnet, and your magnet is your magic that really pulls people to you. And then the E is excitement. You have to deliver it with excitement, because if you're not excited about it, how is anybody else going to be? But that passion really pulls people to why this is such an exciting breakthrough. What's it going to do that's different than something that's on the market today? Then you have to distinguish yourself. The D in media is distinguish. How are you different than what's already on the market? Why is that important? You have to be interesting. The I is interesting. It's like you deliver with excitement, but how are you differentiating from everyone else? You have to distinguish yourself. You have to describe what's so important. How is it interesting? And then you really do that for your audience. Who is the main target audience? And it's easy when your audience niche is small, but when people see it as a broad alternative to a lot of things, they get clustered, right? Like, it's like, oh my goodness gracious. No, it's all these people, it's everyone. And the sad part is when you serve everyone, then you have to still niche down into little buckets because everyone is not listening the same way. And when you start talking to everyone, you start talking to no one because it's too generic. People don't know to stop and listen. The whole thing is you're trying to stop that scroll. Everything, it doesn't matter if it's your video, if it's a meme, if it's a white paper, if it's your blog, if whatever it is, we're all in the same scrolls right now, right? It doesn't matter if it's social media or on email or you're trying to stop that scroll. How do you get them to open your thing? And really, so the media, the message, the excitement, all of that just really comes into play.
That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're obviously brilliant at all of this, and I really appreciate that summary. I could not stop nodding my head because I was just like, yes. So thank you. And I love your acronym. That's perfect. Oh my goodness. Easy to remember.
Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges or blocks that you see, maybe especially with some of these startups, because a lot of startups are listening to this podcast. And so, yeah, speaking of niching down, speaking to your people.
Right.
But so what advice would you have? What kinds of challenges and roadblocks do you see? And then what kind of advice would you have for somebody who is in this situation of, okay, I'm ready to start being known. I don't want this to be a secret anymore.
Right.
What do you see and how can they overcome some of those issues?
Yeah, it's an excellent question because patience is a virtue still today. And we have less and less of it, right? We think like we've been working on this for a year and a half and here we are, ta-da! And everybody's going to be like, oh, thank God they're here, right? You know what I mean? But that's not really how it is. We have trust issues. And in today's world, because there's so much online and because we have so much accessibility and because there's always new things being invented all the time, where's the credibility, right? So, and even if you're the most credible person in the world, where's the credibility in the product? Where's the credibility in your launch? Where's the credibility? And sometimes it's much slower to ramp up than you want it to be, than you think it's going to be. So the first initial, sometimes even press releases or outreach to media, introductions to media, and you might get interviews, you might get like all different kinds of things where you're seeing a lot of groundswell, but it hasn't turned into stories yet. It hasn't turned into articles on the web. And it's very frustrating because you're like, I gave them my time. I gave them all my expertise. I was as transparent and authentic as possible. I shared all this. Like, where's our story? But they might still be just accumulating information on you and watching and waiting. They're seeing how your science matures. Because if they come out with it, it's an endorsement by their publication that this is authentic, that this is a real thing. And so, especially in credible publications, which is what you're trying to get into, right? And so they're waiting and watching for the right time to release your story. They might interview you 3, 4, 5 times, collecting the data, building up the story before they actually cover you, before they actually release the interview notes, before they actually do something that you can really use on your site and to build out your stuff. So in the meantime, you do the media interviews, you build the relationship with your key media who are writing about your topics. And you really, that's what you're doing, is building the relationship. You're making them feel comfortable enough with you, your science, the results, all your white papers, like everything that you're putting out, all of your studies, especially if you're presenting, by all means, share that with your media without necessarily expectation. You want the expectation, right? You want the story to come out of it, of course. but they might still be just collecting information and building up your file. And then once it happens, it could be something grandiose. It could be something really great that then you can really use. And then don't be afraid to repurpose these when you get stories. Don't be a one and done. Oh my God, we were in the Wall Street Journal. Here it is. You're done. I think it's 8%, of LinkedIn followers even see your posts or even exposed to your post, whether or not they're on social media that day. And it goes down through your feed. It's still in your social media, but repurpose it all the time. Pull out quotes from it. Pull out interesting tidbits. Share your infographics. Like, share that thing. Don't be afraid, like 20, 30, 40 times throughout the year. You can take one study and really dissect it and share different pieces to it. Different people are going to see it. They're going to absorb, the same people are going to absorb it differently each time. It's like watching your favorite movie over and over again. And you grab new tidbits every time you're like, I never even noticed that before. It's the same kind of concept with your science.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. That was great. I really appreciate you sharing that advice with us too. Yeah. And I think to your point, it is hard to be patient because you're so excited about whatever it is that you're building and working on. And patience is such a wonderful thing to keep in mind. Like, it's okay. It will come, just,
Yes.
one
Yes.
step at a time. Yeah.
When you get started on your marketing, it can take like 3-4 months before you really are starting to see real results, because it's like A/B testing all the time, right? What are people responding to? What are they not responding to? It's kind of the same thing with traditional media when you're trying to get them with the media.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Well, so I'm curious, are there any moments or a series of moments that stand out to you because they clearly reminded you why you chose this field and why you're specifically doing it for healthcare, medtech, and whatnot?
So I feel like we're at kind of a pivotal point in healthcare right now. It's been very much like one specific way. We've been a pill popping society, for lack of a better way of putting it. We all wanted a pill to solve all of our problems. In fact, there was some show in the 90s and it was like all about the year 2025. And we were such a pill popping society that by the year 2025, you pressed a button and this pill came out and that was your entire meal. And you took your pill and that was your meal. And you just went on, you had all the proper nutrition. Like, we thought, oh, we're not even gonna have to bother to eat anymore. Well, foodies hadn't really come about yet. So foodies came about and they're like, no, we want to eat. Eating is the great part. Like, why would you take that away? Nobody wants to ill. So I think with MedTech, where it is, we're able now, especially combining it with AI, is that we're able to create new things that test the body in new ways. We're able to create new things that show us, like, even where your body's misaligned. And the part that's so important about the way your body is aligned is that has to do with nutrient delivery. It has to do with injuries. Most injuries, we think, oh, it's because I was playing soccer and I twisted my knee this way. But it was actually because, well, your hip and your ankle were out of joint to begin with. You went and you played soccer and your body was already misaligned. You slept wrong, or you had poor posture while you were watching television. You got all cranked up the wrong way. And then you went out and you played basketball, because you always play basketball on Saturdays because you're a weekend warrior. Weekend warriors are the ones that get the most injuries. And that's because we don't do the training all the way along. And then you go out and you play and then you have injuries. So it's like getting ahead of all those things. MedTech today has such an opportunity to change the entire trajectory of the way we look and analyze the body, that I think there's no more fascinating industry than MedTech right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And thank you for sharing a little bit about some of even the technology that you get exposed to too, because that is just so cool. And I'm curious, you mentioned at the beginning how, and this is a hot topic because it's on everyone's mind, of how is AI impacting medtech? And I'd be curious to know how AI is impacting even the work that you do for medtech and healthcare.
Right. So two totally different things, right? Like, when you say AI to anybody today, they just go, oh, ChatGPT, right?
Right.
There's so much more than ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
So I've been fortunate. I've actually been working with AI for 15 plus years, because we didn't call it AI back then. We called it different things. We just talked about what it did. We didn't say, well, artificial intelligence, putting it together. Like, we didn't do that. It's a term now, right? What we talked about was the application of it. in taking all this data and getting the analysis out in an intelligent analysis that's going to help people. Or now you can use AI processes that were developed for something else. You can plug and play it into your application and it can vascularize things that never were vascularized before. I mean, that's one of the things in certain types of med tech that people are working on galore is really in creating 3D printing organs, for example, 3D printing life-saving aspects. I'm working with one company and they're developing it's a 3D printed biopolymer wrap that actually it's got bioabsorbable materials. There's new materials, there's new stuff, there's new technologies. And AI is really the ability to speed up data analysis, the ability to combine mass amounts of data or mass amounts of processes and simplify it into something that humans can do, but nowhere near at the speed. So we're taking things that might have taken 3 months or 3 years, and we're able to get it down to 3 seconds or even less. We're able to take things like out in military applications or there's the god-awful bombings that are going on. How are we getting medical care to areas that are so remote that there's no medical care? So AI is actually able to connect things up where there is no technology, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no this, there's no that, but then you can do x-rays and you can actually get your x-rays and upload them and get a diagnosis, get like intelligent insight back when you don't have access to the internet and to other things. And so it's really, AI is the ability to dream bigger and make those dreams actually truly happen. And then in my field, it's a really great way to never have to start with a blank piece of paper. The blank piece of paper is the hardest thing in the world to start with. AI right now, especially if you're going like ChatGPT, it's great for content. It's not so great for context yet. You still have to personalize everything. Never take what AI does and just use it straight out. Everyone knows, first of all, everyone knows the way it writes. So then you just look lazy and you look like you didn't really share your own stuff. No one cares what AI had to say. They care what you, the expert, had to say. So we do a lot of ghostwriting. We write a lot in other people's words. We might take it to AI to get that started or maybe get some ideas. It's fabulous for ideas for blog posts. It's fabulous for ideas for social media. It's fabulous for ideas, then take those ideas. It's fabulous to get started, but not to finish. You need to take it and spend a good hour with it and really make it yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about that too.
Yeah.
It's just always such an interesting, it will be a discussion point for years and years, probably forever. I don't know, but it is so exciting. I love the way that you described it too, of being able to not approach it out of a fear or concern, but approach it out of, oh my goodness, I can actually make these dreams come true and I can have a bigger, even more positive impact.
Right?
Exactly.
We're looking for impact. And it's really, don't be afraid of it. I talk to some people and they're like, well, everything we do is just so personalized. Everyone wants to think that everything is so different. What we do is so unique. I know everybody's just so unique. It's so unique. We're all the same uniquely. But
yeah.
We're all uniquely the same. I don't know, whichever way you want to put it. But it's really about amplifying who you are. You can take it and create avatars to let it think in a certain person's tone. And then you can feed it that avatar and you're saying, like, you're telling it, I want you to be this avatar in this way of thinking with this tone and these personas, these personality traits that you're giving it. I want you to create now something spectacular. And it can give you something that it might even be 70, 80% done, right? But just never take it straight out and just plain old use it. But what it's also really good for is in finding gaps, right? Where you're like, here's everything I know about this and here's everything I know about this. Why aren't they working together? Find the gaps in this for me. Excellent at doing that, especially in MedTech, where you can really then find out like, what's happening today? What are the problems that we have with the MedTech that's out there today? If you want a product, but you want it to go even bigger, maybe you want to change standard of care somehow by making something, taking what we have now and amplifying it to a whole nother realm where you're taking the aspects of maybe 3 other products and you're marrying it with standard of care today. And you're saying, this is how it's going to go that much better. It will find all those gaps for you, right? You can create programs. There are AI program writers that you tell them, I need this as my end result, and they can design a program that's intelligent, that continues to learn. There's another gentleman that I've been working with, and he developed, it basically helps you make decisions, and it helps you weigh all the decisions. And it's not like it's so profound that you couldn't have done it on your own, but you don't do it on your own, right? You plug the things in and now you get the answers back, and that's AI.
Ooh, fascinating too. That is so cool. Yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it's just the beginning. So it's going to be
Right.
exciting to
Right.
stay on it. Yeah. Well, pivoting the conversation just for fun,
Okay.
imagine you were to be offered $1 million to teach a masterclass on anything you want. Could be in your industry, but doesn't have to be. What would you choose to teach?
That is a fascinating question. I would talk about I would talk about the power of being you. You know, we're born uniquely us. That is the one thing where you really do get to own the unique. You are uniquely you for a reason. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Like I said, I'm 24 years old. I'm sure you know that math. Yeah, but it wasn't the time for girl power. It really was not the time for girl power. And then girl power came about. And it was so great because watching the transition of girls into sport and really owning sport, right? And girls into science and STEM. Like now females are owning STEM, and there's femtech. Femtech is a real, true industry, not just a word, but an entire industry. And that is, how are we serving women? So we've been marketing to women for years because women are the caretakers of the family, but we haven't been taking care of those women. We've been empowering those women to take care of their family. So we've been shamed. Oh, you can't be conceited. If you love yourself, you're conceited. That's what growing up in the 70s and 80s was. Like it was very much about you're not allowed to love yourself. And loving yourself in today's world, as we know, is the key to everything. And so the more uniquely and fantastically you are you, the better innovations you're going to bring to your life, to the people who know you, to the scientific world, if that's where you belong. You didn't get into science by accident. You didn't get into inventing by accident. That is part of what is uniquely you. You have a curious mind. And one of the things that we forget to do, we do it in science all the time. The hypothesis is designed to be proven incorrect. Incorrect. We think, oh, I'm trying to prove my science. No, you're trying to prove it incorrect. And if you can't prove it incorrect, the assumption is that it must be true until we can find something else or something better. The same thing applies to your life. The same thing applies to yourself. And in fact, I'm going to challenge, but the same thing applies into the way that you're researching your politics. The same thing applies to the research that you're applying to your beliefs about everything in life. And if you can start to say, this is my current hypothesis, this is what I believe based on all these things, and I haven't been able to prove myself wrong, therefore, I believe these to be true. And if you start researching everything like that, you're going to find so many more discoveries in life, and you're going to find so much more of your sweet spot and what makes you really happy, and find your people who are going to go on this journey with you. And so I think that's what I would like to do. And thank you for the $1 million.
Yeah. Well, that's a brilliant sounding masterclass, and I totally want to sign up. So let me know when you offer it, because I'll be there.
You got
That's
it.
amazing. And then, how do you wish to be remembered after you leave this world?
Gosh, that's another nice question. I think as an empowering person who helps people to see the value in being truly and authentically themselves. I think the
Yeah.
more we really embrace who we are and all of our flaws and all of our own cuckoo, because everybody gets some. We love to point the finger, right? And one of the great things I learned, and I don't even remember which coach I learned it from, but you know, when you're pointing the finger at everyone else, you've got 3 more pointing back at you. And so the most empowering thing about that is it puts you in charge. And that means it puts you in charge of being able to fix anything. And so, yeah, that.
I love that. Yeah, excellent. And then, final question.
Okay.
What is one thing that makes you smile every time you see or think about it?
My dog, Bruno. My dog, Bruno. He's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. He was homeless. He was sleeping under my friend's truck for about 3 weeks. She posted, hey, I have to find this guy his forever home. And we met, and it's just been a fabulous engagement ever since. He's the greatest thing ever.
Well, that's so sweet. I love that. Dogs are the best.
Mm.
They're perfect companions.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent.
He's spoiled
Well-
now. He went from outside to a couch and a bed and all these other beds, and he's a happy guy.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It deserves some love and attention and pampering.
Right.
That's phenomenal. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much for being here today. Seriously, it was value after value. It was nonstop, amazing advice, amazing insight. We are so honored to be making a donation on your behalf as a thank you for your time today to Paw Prints in the Sand. Paw Prints in the Sand Animal Rescue is an all-animal foster-based animal welfare organization with a mission to give at-risk animals a second chance at life by providing medical care, behavior training, and loving forever homes. Thank you for choosing that organization to support. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for everything that you do to change lives for a better world.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this. This was fantastic. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you and talk MedTech to all the scientists out there. It's one of my favorites. It's always fascinating. And thank you for doing the podcast. It's fantastic.
Yeah, excellent. And for those startups and founders that might need some assistance, where could
Yeah.
they find you?
Email me at jennifer@engagementpr.com or just go to engagementpr.com, fill out the form, or you can go to LinkedIn, Jennifer L. Horspool. Everywhere I am, get my L in the middle. If I say whether it's my middle initial or my last name, please put the L. It's really important.
Okay, excellent. Sounds good. Well, again, thank you for being here. And thank you also to our listeners. And if you're feeling as inspired as I am right now, I'd love it if you would share this episode with a colleague or two. And we will catch you next time.
You're the best.
The Leading Difference is brought to you by Velentium. Velentium is a full-service CDMO with 100% in-house capability to design, develop, and manufacture medical devices from Class 2 wearables to Class 3 active implantable medical devices. Velentium specializes in active implantables, leads, programmers, and accessories across a wide range of indications, such as neuromodulation, deep brain stimulation, cardiac management, and diabetes management. Velentium's core competencies include electrical, firmware, and mechanical design, mobile apps, embedded cybersecurity, human factors and usability, automated test systems, systems engineering, and contract manufacturing. Velentium works with clients worldwide, from startups seeking funding to established Fortune 100 companies. Visit Velentium.com to explore your next step in medical device development.